Hello and welcome to the Gay and Straight podcast. I'm Jonathan,
I'm Paul.
and today we are talking about a new topic, which is very exciting. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at my show notes now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about
So today,
having a bad memory.
something cropped up with regards to how people perceive who you are and how you perceive who you are. And it's also taken it on to a perspective of what would the younger you think about the older you now, and are you where you expected to be or wanted to be?
Dying.
So, I'm 52. You're
42,
42.
I
What
think.
would 14-year-old Paul think about 42-year-old Paul?
Blimey.
So,
I think you'd be very shocked that I went fat and bald um, because I had the thickest hair on earth when I was a kid.
right.
So I'd be very surprised at myself that happened. Um, I mean, I was, my area that I lived in was just rough. It was the second worst school in Britain as voted by Ofsted. Nobody left with qualifications. So there was. I mean, I remember going to like, I suppose it was career advisor.
Hmm.
Like, we had one of them. Pam, I think her name was. She was the only person you were allowed to call by the first name. Her and this dude called Rick, who used to like look after the.
Did Pam look a little bit like a librarian with like pearls and a fixed hairdo with a perm?
She looked like a wine lush.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
And I only saw her twice in the entire time I was at school. Where you had like a one-on-one with her.
Yeah.
I don't know what she did, but the first time it was in the first year of high school,
Hmm.
and she was with this, I don't know, like nutritionist or whatever, and they took your height and weight, and they estimated what your average weight would be when you grew up and what your average height would be.
So, how's that careers advice? Like, your height and weight means that you're going to do this as the job. How does that
I
work? Is
don't
this
know.
like, yeah.
So we did that, and apparently I should have been about 5'9", so that didn't really work when I ended up being 6'1". Um, And then I saw her like in the last year of school, and it was like, "What do you want to do? What is
Mm,
the plan?" And I gave her some examples, and one of the things I wanted to do was be an interpreter because I've
right.
always loved the idea of being able to speak more than one
How many
language.
languages do you speak?
I'd say two, maybe three at a
Right.
push. But I always wanted to learn Spanish, but my school only gave German.
Right.
I was like, well, I don't want to learn German, but I kind of do now.
Mm.
So I had to learn Spanish by myself. And
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
yep, just like that. And I said to her, I want to be an interpreter, and she was like, "Well, you're probably not going to be able to do that."
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay." And basically, what she did with everyone who walked through her door, she just basically told you, don't aim higher than working in the warehouses for Argos. And
Right.
ironically, I actually did work in a warehouse for Argos, and it was one of the best jobs I ever had. Because I worked with some, it was the team that I worked
Yeah.
with. They were just really good guys. But that's what she did. She knocked everybody's idea and plan down because you were going from the second worst school to then rubbish colleges, and you went to college to get your GCSEs because you didn't get them at school because the school was so bad.
Oh.
And yeah, it was a nightmare. So having an aspiration, you kind of weren't allowed one.
Oh.
Living on a council estate, no money, going to a school that was bad, careers advisors telling you things aren't going to work out for you, so just get a job in, the local shop or whatever, or go to the airport. That was the one. They're always looking for people to work at Sky Chefs, which was where they made the meals for the planes.
Right.
That was always the thing they try to push you towards to just fill jobs. But I think if I could have 14-year-old me in front of me and I said, I do this for a living now, and this is what you've got from it,
Mm.
14-year-old me would be more surprised than me looking back at what my 14-year-old self wanted.
Yeah.
Because my 14-year-old self, like, I never thought I'd own a home. It was always going to be rented. Never thought I'd do more than what the careers advisor said, and I've knocked that out the park. With only my fortitude. It's never been from a handout.
Hmm.
I've never known someone who's then given me a job because their dad works there.
No.
So I know at least everything I've done and have achieved, even though I've made some, problems along the way. I did that. 14-year-old me would be more surprised than,
Was that a
whatever.
good surprise?
Yeah, a very good surprise. Even though it's still hard, I always attribute something to what I'm going to say now is there's a lot of people in the world who think they can get what they want. And when they don't get exactly what they want, they don't try anything. Whereas my
Uh,
mentality is I've got to do a lot of things I don't want to get some of the things I do want. So I will go through the adversity to get something instead of nothing.
yeah. Uh, I was always taught. My grandfather was that like the male figure in my
Yeah.
life because so wasn't brought up my parents, my father or my mother. Always said you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want, and that always stuck. I thought like, how can I do that? Was how will that happen? He said, well, if you apply yourself, you can do anything. And part of me thought, oh, I don't believe that. But in fairness, I didn't expect, I think 14-year-old Jonathan looking at 52-year-old Jonathan would have been a bit surprised because I knew I was gay and sort of I had a few dalliances with school friends and I was having a little bit of a fling out with a teacher at 14. Um, but I never thought I'd be a married gay man
Ah, okay.
because, and I never expected that. I expected to own my own house because I always that was the first thing I wanted to do the moment I got a job was to buy a house,
Really?
which was the first thing I did when I had well, the moment I left university. 6 months after university, I bought my first house. But you could because I had a student grant. So I saved my student grant. I worked. I was working 30, 35-hour week and university. And I was saving up all that money. So the moment I got my full-time job, I could get a mortgage and I bought a house. That was the first. I was determined. I was not going to be in rented. I didn't want to do that. I expected to be in a bigger house than I'm in now. Although I have got a 4-bedroom house,
Yeah.
so which we've turned into a 1-bedroom house because we've got sort of music room, office, sort of
You've got a garage as well. Can't discount the
got a garage.
garage.
Yeah, I've got a garage. Yes, but uh, I, but career-wise, I had no idea. All I wanted to do was earn money
Right.
because at the age of 14, my mother's relationship with my stepfather was ended. My stepfather was a complete arsewipe and put me in a hospital. So that was all a bit nasty. So I went a bit off the rails when I was about 11. I could have gone one or two ways, but I was a little bit precocious as a child. I've always been that little bit confident. Like everyone said, oh, it's like little Lord Fauntleroy Jonathan. Um, because I was always dressed well, well presented, and I wasn't like that feral child running around. I was that child that was observing what
Yeah.
the adults were doing and building up my language skills. And I was always sort of like observing and seeing how everyone was ticking. And I think that went well for going forward. But when I was 11, when everything went a bit off the rails, I could have gone completely off the rails. And I did it in a way, but in a more precocious, sexually active young child that
Mm.
really shouldn't possibly have not done that. But that was like the main anxiety because that's why lots of kids like get sort of sweaty spots and stuff like that because they're like so anxious and
Sweaty spots.
cracking the duvet into the washing machine and that sort of thing. I was having dalliances in the cricket pavilion.
So you had this thing where it was like you were definitely going to own a house.
I,
That was
I was gonna own a house. I expected to have a house with a swimming pool.
on a pony.
That's and a pony. Yes, I never had a pony. But, uh, admittedly, I sort of managed my expectations. When I lived in Australia, I did have a house with a swimming pool. Um, and yeah, so and I think the allure of that, I scratched that itch, and that's gone. And I think that's the good thing is that I've scratched a lot of itches. I always imagined I'd been working for one company. I got a job in a bank, and I thought, right, I'm in a job in a bank, and that'll be me till retirement. That was the expectations. My grandfather was a bank manager, um, so I was in a different form of banking, but I expected that, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Everything I've been working for that for like school age, everything to earn money. Because I had the careers advisor. My careers advisor wasn't called, was it Pam, your
Yeah,
one?
Pam.
It wasn't Pam, but it was something like Barbara or something like that. And I think she was like careers advisor and librarian.
Yeah.
And she came in and you got given flashcards. Like if you wanted a chef, you had like someone in the chef's white with a spoon and a bowl mixing. And if you wanted to be a postman, you had someone delivering a post thing in a post uniform. But the accountant had a red Porsche, silver briefcase, and a mobile phone. And I thought, that's what I want. So I wanted all the trappings and the money. And I went for the money, but I hated it. I really, really despised it. I earned a bucket load of money, but I hated it. And I thought, I cannot see myself doing this forever. I mean, we've had I say we recently had a pub. We took a pub on in like November last year, and I'm burnt out from it.
Yeah.
And so with the banking, I was getting towards burnout because I was working 18-hour days, 6 7 days a week, and it was relentless. I didn't have a single holiday in that period of time because if you took any time out, someone would snaffle in for your deals and try to steal your deals. So you couldn't afford to do that, and because I built myself up and I was the number one, so there was nowhere else to go except down. But I was determined not to go down.
Yeah.
So therefore, when you're up to that pinnacle, it's longer to fall. So it's but I wanted to. I just said I can't do this anymore. But I cashed out, and but then I just didn't. I was lost,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what to do. But with the jobs, I've always fallen into a variety of things, and it's been fine.
So
But
I have never known what I wanted to do.
no, I
You know.
still don't know what to do when I grow up. I know I want to write more.
Yeah.
I want to be a fiction writer. Ideally, do a screenplay. I've sort of played around with that in the past, but now that's what I would like to be. I would like to be a writer, but again, I think it's that whole the fantasy be reality, and in fact, the reality of my life now is good. I mean, admittedly, I'm sort of very tired because we silly stupidly got a pub, which was more work and less money and less fun than we thought. But I'm really looking forward to this next chapter.
Yeah. See, like when you say you sort of left school and it was like, right, I'm doing this job, I'm going to earn loads of money, I'm buying a house. When I left school, it was, what do I do now? Because there was 4 apprenticeships and 2 of them were already gifted to people because
Right,
their dad worked there. Um, there was an army recruitment fella who came in, to sort of say, we need people to take bullets on the front.
right,
Who wants to get shot and earn 200 quid a week for the privilege. Um, but when we left, because we knew we would never get a qualification higher than a D grade, because of classism, because we had a terribly scored school. If I
right.
got 100% in my English exam, I got D.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
Whereas if
god.
someone in fancy pants areas got 70%, they'd get a C.
Right.
It's like, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense. If I've got more about me, why am I being penalised? But it's because of classism. So none of us could get higher than a D in our
Oh,
year. There was only one class in our year that could, and that was set one.
right.
But apparently, with scoring and what have you, the rest of us couldn't. So I got terrible grades. So I went to college to get better grades. which I did because I had better teachers and it was unrestricted for the
Mhm.
scoring that you could get. And then after that, it was like I still don't know what am I actually supposed to do because I was told by a careers advisor I can't do anything. I'm not allowed to be a translator because that job's above my station, and I believed that. Like I believed that I was
Mm.
this council estate boy who should stay in his lane.
Right.
Really believed it, and I'll never forget this time. I went to a building at Manchester Airport and it had a job fair inside. And it was like, just come in, go to reception, they'll direct you where to go. So I got all suited and booted in my Asda suit. And I got to the building and it was new at the time, this building. I think it was called Voyager. And it's near the train station. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is a really nice building.
Mhm.
And I got near reception and I saw the revolving doors. And I'll never forget this. I remember thinking to myself, I'm not worthy enough to be allowed in that building. Like they will look at me, even though there might be a job fair in there. The receptionist will go, "No, no, not people like you."
Oh,
And I
really?
really felt that
Did
because
you
that
go in though?
no, because I didn't want to be made to feel like. But
Oh,
she wouldn't have said that.
no.
But that's because of like say living
You're
in a
ingrained.
living in a poor, dirt poor area. You beg, borrow, and steal. Houses getting robbed in the middle of the day, and the only way they'd stop is if you opened the door while they were kicking it in. And they're like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were home."
So would your one piece of advice be if you could go and talk to that
Oh, if
Paul?
I could have a word with him,
If you
yeah.
could just say, "Go through that door."
Yeah, if I could go back to that time, I'd just say, "Look, what you know you are matters more than what people will think you are." If you know that you've got that commitment, that want, that drive, that
Mm,
desire. What you don't realize at your age, my friend, is no matter where you go, you'll be one of the best performers, but you'll be treated like you're one of the worst because you'll do so much more than everybody else and it knocks their nose out of joint. Don't, you've got a passion for whatever you do. Never let that get killed. So you're stood outside that building right now and you're worried about walking through it, but I can promise you, you'll be one of the best people who walks through that door. Just give him a bit of a pep talk and,
yeah.
mean, knowing me now, I'd offer to go with him. I'd be like, if that receptionist says anything to you, I'll deal with her. But yeah, it was horrible. So through the years, it's been a monumental shift. And now, I always used to have the imposter syndrome, and I still do to a degree. But I also have faith in what I do now.
Yeah.
I trust my work. I trust my level of work. I
Mm,
trust that people come to me to make sure they're doing the right thing as well because they must value my opinion for
mm,
what I know what I can do because I hold a passion. Because if I didn't, I'd hate everything I do because
mm.
I don't want to work, but I've got to, so I make it my interest.
Right.
But from the kid I was to the person I am, I still know the people who were in my year. If we could go back to those
Yeah.
14-year-olds, and they did go and work at Sky Chefs, and they're still there. They didn't move out of the area. They did end up in the council house, or the council flat with 5 kids and drive a car without insurance and get
Yeah.
in fights and still do drugs and like
Yeah.
what everybody else used to. And it's like, well, I didn't want that for me. And I am the proof that if you do apply and go through the hard things, do the things you don't want to do to reach some of the things you do want, it can come your way.
Mm,
But I didn't get to slow down or take my foot off the brake until I got over 40 years old. So it doesn't happen overnight.
no. It takes years to become an overnight success.
It
Uh,
does.
I think I would tell the 14-year-old me, follow the arts, do media. I would think that's because there was opportunities for me to go and sort of like do a position at the BBC as a production runner. And if I'd have done that, I would have probably gone in a completely different, more creative direction. And I think I've always skirted around sort of creative endeavors, but I was just really focused in making money
Right.
because when my mother got remarried, there was no money after that happened, after that fell apart. And I was always very conscious of money. So because of that, I just wanted to go for the highest paying job, whether I liked it or not.
Wow.
And I was very good at passing interviews. So I could talk my way in. I knew what they were looking for, and I just gave them what they were looking for.
Yeah. I'm
So
terrible in interviews because I know what I can do, but it's a personality test,
yeah,
an interview, and I'm more the sort of person who goes, "Look, this bit's a waste of time. Let's get on our feet. Let's go and do an assessment. I'll show you exactly what I can do, and then hopefully you'll judge me off that."
yeah.
That's how I feel, but you don't get to do that. But I was never a money chaser, and I'm still not.
I think when you've been in a situation where you've been in an environment of being around money,
Yeah,
and then yeah, so then suddenly you're not, then you have to make that decision. I felt I made that decision where if you've got no money and you've been brought up with no money and no money, no money,
yeah,
then
you're not missing it because that
the
was just always the
expectation
state.
is it's like, well, that's other people. But because I'd been in that environment where it was part of
Yeah,
life and then suddenly it wasn't, then it's just like, well, I want that back. I want that foundation. And I'm glad, in fairness, I've got a good life.
yeah. I was just
Um,
well, that was going to be my sort of final point. Would 14-year-old you be proud of the person you've sort of become?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
with the trappings of what I've got and being in a relationship, which I never imagined, because you wouldn't be able to marry. Gays weren't marrying. It wasn't that. We were sort of at the time 14. AIDS was a big thing, and people were dying left, right, and centre. So you didn't think you were going to make old bones. And but now I'm 52.
yeah.
Um, so you weren't expected to live that long because you were gonna go out party and get HIV and then die. Um, and then sort of the iceberg adverts came out and the gravestone things, and it was
Yeah,
just terrifying. But
blimey.
it's just so. And then sort of, but you say gay characters were comic relief or tragic characters in the drama. So the only thing I had tangibility on was like how much money I could earn. So I just really focused on that. But I think I would have gone to the arts. But I think even if 52-year-old me had spoken to 14-year-old me, 14-year-old me would have said, no, I'm going for the money.
Right.
So because I wasn't very swayed as a 14-year-old. It was, no, I know better.
Oh wow. No, I would have listened to anyone who offered sage advice. I really
Yeah.
would have because
Uh,
I had no guidance
uh,
apart from Pam, who told me I was going
Pam,
to be 5'9".
and I would have pointed around to our careers advisor. I can't remember her name. That say accountants don't look glamorous, and it's really boring. So, dear listeners, so what would you turn around and tell your 14-year-old self? What sage advice would you give? And would the 14-year-old you actually listen? But interested to hear where you're going and what you would be doing. Anyway, this is Jonathan signing off.
And Paul signing off.
Bye bye.